Good afternoon, everybody. Hi, it's Maria Quattrone with Remax at Home and Be the Solution. And today I am so excited. I have my guest, Jen Groover, with us today, and we're going to talk about lots of amazing things. But I just want to tell you a little bit about Jen. She just launched a book, The More Method, which I thought was fabulous. So we should definitely dive into that today. But Jen has been tagged by Success Magazine as a one-woman brand. She's a creativity and an invention guru, a leading serial entrepreneur by Entrepreneur Magazine, and ranked number top 8 by SAP in the top 51 influencers of human potential. She has recently been selected as a delegate for the United Nations first ever Global Accelerator for the Global Entrepreneurs Council. And her success has skyrocketed from the creation of her Butler Bag, the world's first compartmentalized handbag, which led to the creation of subsequent lifestyle brands, Leader Girlz, and Empowered by Jen Groover, with her PBS special complemented with a variety of books and consumer products. Her latest business, JumpStart Connect, accelerates growth of small businesses. As a TV personality, highly sought-after speaker, author, designer, inventor, and more, Jen is more than a triple threat and a force to be reckoned with. We are so excited to have you today, Jen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
And you certainly are. You have been a solution to lots of people over many years. How are you and your girls doing, Morgan and Madison?
We're doing good. We are taking each day at a time. I mentioned before we started this, I was traveling so much in January, February, in the beginning of March. So the first few weeks was nice to actually have an excuse to kind of hide and recoup my energy. But now we're taking one day at a time and making the most, trying to stay focused on all the things that we're grateful for. So each day I do these exercises in my mind, like what's good coming of this right now? Like, oh, wow, I've saved probably a fortune on my gas this month. And my entertainment budget is like nothing right now. So I keep trying to stay focused when I get in my head or a little bit, I'm an advocate too. And there's this very strong, fiery advocate side of me. So when I get into my advocate mind, sometimes I can feel getting like heated and upset about things. So I try to go to that grateful side. My daughters are 16 now, so they should have had their their driver's permit during this time, which they couldn't get and probably won't see for a few months. And both should have gotten their braces off during this time. So they got a double teenage Grammy in disappointment. I keep telling them that this is great because their generation hasn't really ever felt disappointment yet. So it's teaching them resiliency, and they're like, Mom, not everything is a life lesson. And of course I say it is.
Yeah, I think this one definitely is, right?
Absolutely. Well, there's resiliency that comes in disappointment, right? And a lot of kids of their generation haven't really felt a lot of letdowns, especially, there's different economic classes, but as a whole, that generation hasn't really lived through anything challenging or tragic. So this is something that is teaching them some adaptability skills and how to stay focused on positives instead of negatives, and how to be resilient to fear as well. So I think as parents, we're all responsible to not over instill this fear in them, but teach them how to balance it with logic and teach them how to research too. My kids come home from their dad's house and the news is on all day, and my TV's really not on much at all because I feel that that's a bombardment of negative energy that isn't even truth coming at us. And I tell them, go investigate, go research what you just came home and said to me to see if it's actually true, because usually it's not, or it's skewed truth. So Morgan is actually, I think, benefiting from this time because she was being homeschooled this year, recovering from a significant case of Lyme disease. So She hasn't said it, but I think in her mind, she's like, great, all my friends are home now too. So she's not feeling as left behind in this sophomore year of her life.
Feeling more included.
Yeah, just feeling like, well, listen, if it was good timing for something like that to happen, this was the time for it for her. So
are they Zooming?
What's that?
Are they Zooming with their friends?
There's a ton of FaceTime. And they're doing those games now where everybody plays the game together. They're all participating.
Online games or?
Yeah. One is Fortnite, and another's like some puzzle game, which I'd prefer that over the Fortnite game. But I think technology is so powerful for them to stay connected. While they're missing the true connection, I think that they're still feeling pretty connected.
That's
they
awesome.
Work out with their friends. Well, Madison does, where they FaceTime and they walk together, or they run together.
That's cute.
Yeah, it's great. They hold each other accountable. It's amazing.
That's awesome. So, what have you been doing with your business? I know you were in Asia was it January, February, in that time frame, launching your book?
Yep, the end of February and the beginning of March. I came back actually March 5th.
So you came back right in the midst of
yes,
the storm.
Yes. Yeah, I was there in Asia when it was, really, really becoming aware or big to them that this was a pandemic, and we came back. I mean, I thought I was going to have a hard time getting back in the country. I was a little nervous about that. But we didn't. But yeah, I mean, I was in the middle of book launch. We kind of had to pause it to figure out what you do, especially because Amazon wasn't taking any products that were non-essential for quite a few weeks. And this is a time as an entrepreneur, I say, okay, behavioral changes mean opportunity, right? So there's a lot of behavioral changes right now. There's going to be a lot of opportunity moving forward to do things differently, to create solutions for different problems. So I try to stay really honed into behavioral changes and predict what those future needs are going to be. And that's helped me kind of balance the disappointment of having over 40 speaking engagements canceled between March and June. I don't know if any of my speaking engagements for the rest of 2020 will actually even happen. And for those who don't know, as a public speaker, that is an enormous bulk of our revenue. And for me, it was probably 70% of my revenue for 2020. So because it was my focus, my whole focus was being on book tour for most of the year. And anyway, I'm a speaker. So it's been just
a double whammy.
Yeah. And just constantly having to figure out how to adapt. I've been doing virtual training for over a decade. So there has been an opportunity for a lot of companies that were resistant to virtual training to now have to be open-minded to it. So that's a good thing. Some people are adapting. I don't think that will change. I think a lot of companies will realize that they had a lot more overhead that they needed, that they can entrust their employees to be working virtually. So that's going to be something I think really is going to be at one of the biggest changes of our future from this.
So do you think that some of these events will be booked virtually?
Yeah, some of them have been already. I'm keynoting for Girlz on the Run next week on the 30th, on Thursday, a week from today, virtually at 8 a.m., kicking it off just like it was the event. So, I think a lot of people are really, what's that?
Where was that supposed to be?
In Philadelphia.
Okay. Yeah. How do people, can they, is there a site they can go to see it or not? Or
I'll post it on in the comment section or on your Facebook when we're done. Or they can look at Girlz on the Run Philly, and it's next Thursday on the 30th. It starts at 8 a.m. And it's just about these companies are starting to realize too, or these organizations that were putting on all these events are starting to realize that everything is uncertain. And depending on what news you listen to, you're uncertain for a long time or for just a short time. So everyone's afraid to lose more money that they've already lost by the deposits and all the resources of event planning. So I think a lot of them will just succumb to going virtually eventually.
Yeah, we've talked about some of the groups I'm in of them doing the masterminds virtually, which I'm okay with it, but I prefer human interaction.
Yeah.
Seeing people, having, a cocktail, eating with people.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
definitely a new way. I mean, I know you've been an entrepreneur for a long time, and I'm curious because this takes our 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 futures and our past, right? So
yeah.
all the things that have happened before us make us who we are today, and allows us to hopefully learn from that and create who we are. But how did you come up with the Butler bag?
So let me give just a little bit more backstory on how I became an entrepreneur so that people understand my point of view. When my degree is in education and psychology, and I started continuing education in nutrition and physiology while I was in college to become an aerobic instructor, which that totally just aged myself right there. And I started a group fitness program in my university because I was just passionate about it and I wanted other people to do it with me. So I didn't set out to necessarily become an entrepreneur. As a matter of fact, back then it wasn't cool to be an entrepreneur. Now it's cool. But back then people were like, can you not get hired? I mean, why would you do that to yourself?
You're right. It wasn't cool.
It wasn't.
People were like, and to be motivational person, right?
That was
always saying motivational quotes. People thought I was a weirdo.
Yeah. And to me, it just seems so normal. I've always been unconventional. I've always challenged the norm. I've never followed the pack, ever. And then when I was graduating college, I thought to myself, why in the hell would I go work for somebody else and make somebody else really successful? Because I know whatever I do 1,000%. Why wouldn't I just do it for myself and make myself successful? And that you need like a trust in yourself for as well. And that was just my belief. The whole philosophy around employment where somebody else can dictate how fast you can grow when they say you can grow with their biases and filtered into that, to me just seemed absolutely ludicrous. So I always wanted to be independent and self-sufficient. And so when I started the Butler Bag, when I started my first company in the fitness industry, I really didn't know what that business model looked like, but I kept continuing building and building and taking one thing and turning it into another thing. And that's how true entrepreneurs kind of navigate the world. And when I was in the fitness industry, I was traveling the world, meeting some of the most incredible mindset trainers in the world who truly understood not just psychology, but all the different universal laws that a lot of people don't understand that make people really in the top echelon of how people think with philosophy and logic and the power of your mind and quantum physics that go behind that. And they all became my mentors and taught me everything that they know, or at least most of what they know. And I started applying that, and my career just kept up leveling quickly. And I became a spokesperson for brands at QVC. And I kept seeing people around me turning their widget ideas into multi-million-dollar companies. And I was like, wait, what? I'm just being the spokesperson for that. Like, I want to create that. And I didn't know exactly how to do that yet. So I just studied people. I listened. I asked a lot of questions, researched, read tons of magazines, tons of books like you. I know you're a ferocious reader as well. I'm very self-educated beyond my traditional education. And I had an idea journal this big. I was always creative, but I went to Catholic school my whole life, which did not really applaud creativity and thinking outside of the line. So I didn't really understand, your creativity is your unlimited capital. When you're creative, there's no stopping your ability ever. And so once I invented the Butler Bag, which was inspired by having twin daughters that were newborns, I was in a grocery store, overwhelmed, in a line. My kids are screaming, crying. I can't find my credit card. I dump my bag out in front of the cashier, and I think to myself, seriously, as far as innovation has come, we as women accept a bucket for a bag. It is literally a bucket. Like, what logic is in that? And my mom, you'll love this because it's right in line with your show, but my mom had a mantra: you're not allowed to complain about something unless you back it up with a solution. So the second I complain in my mind, I'm like, what's the solution? What's the solution? What's the solution? So that led to my invention of the Butler Bag Company. And that was an opportunity for me to put all of these things that I had learned from my mentors into play in a significant way, to really show that all of their theories worked. And quickly, the Butler Bag went from an idea to 1 year after launching $1 million, and 2 years after launching $10 million. And then we wound up licensing to Avon, and then Avon took it over. So that, was just a springboard of, wow, these philosophies and principles are duplicable, and I can keep creating and doing based on these theories and principles. And the majority of my life right now, the most passionate part of my life right now, is teaching those principles to other people.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's interesting how an idea comes from a frustration, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're all frustrated right now.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that isn't frustrated
Mm-hmm.
in some capacity. And so during this time, it's what ideas can you come up with? What creativity can you pull from other parts of your life to develop something, either it's a new service or a new product or a new way of doing business within your company? So, which is why we decided to do these Facebook Lives and then develop a podcast called Be the Solution, because you've been being the solution for forever. I was so happy when you said you thought from when you got out of college to go work for yourself.
Yeah.
It took me 10 years in a corporate job before I did that, and I was frustrated because I said, why am I doing this for all this? And they don't even though they said you can make all this money. I was a sales advertising rep. And I would say, well, why can't I? I would keep bringing in business and they would keep taking it away and giving it to somebody else. And I'm like, if I'm going to do that, I might as well go and figure out something I can do on my own. Right. And that's how the entrepreneur journey, I think, begins for a lot of people. It's out of frustration, out of figuring out a way to be the solution. And now we're here today, Jen, with COVID-19, and from your experience, and I know you're very experienced in emotional intelligence. I mean, what advice can you give to people today about how they can manage through this? Because some days, and it varies from day to day, people are okay, and then they are losing their shit.
Yeah.
And it could be a downward spiral. And then, we thought April 30th we were going to be out of jail. Now it's May 8th. Is May 8th going to turn into June 1st? We can't control that, but we can control what's here, what's in our minds. So what advice can you give and share for people?
Well, before I offer the advice, I'm going to say something hopefully that's inspirational to people. In 2009, 2010, when the economy plummeted the way that it did, there was an entire economy that was born from that called the share economy. The share economy came from 2009, 2010, when so many people lost their assets. And people of a younger generation realized, like, why want to have all these assets if I could lose all these assets. So they started the share economy, recognizing that this next generation probably doesn't view the world the same way and wants to be more nimble and traveling more, and Airbnb as an example, and using their asset like their home as something that can add revenue or value to their lives. Or, driving your car can actually become an asset to add revenue if you're driving for Uber or Lyft. So
Do you think now, with everything that's going on, that Airbnb and Uber will be
still
greatly affected?
They are being affected because in most of the states that were shut down, people couldn't rent their homes. And so hopefully a lot of those people that own those properties can cover those mortgages because, yeah, they're going to be affected by it. Now, there was a lot said in the beginning about how we're all in this together. Well, none of my bills stopped. No one's really giving much grace period. So we're not all in this together. And all the bank, what would have made sense to me, without getting too philosophical, is if when all this happened for a month, 2 months, the banks, the energy companies, all of the supply companies that create overhead took a pause. Everything should have just taken a pause, right?
I said the same thing.
And then everybody's okay.
Pause
right?
us.
Right. And I know it's more complex than that, but that's like the overview of what my philosophy has been. But I do believe they'll be around. I believe that, there's some people that have still been doing Ubers for essential workers to still get to where they need to go. I do believe, though, that there's going to be a new kind of economy that comes from this, too. So there is a ton of opportunity. A lot of those people that are unemployed right now will become entrepreneurs from this. There will be an entrepreneur boom spike that comes of this. JumpStart Connect was actually created from 2009, 2010 for this exact same thing. I was doing a ton of TV segments and writing a ton of articles teaching all the people laid off how to start a freelance and consulting business or another business. But most of these people were very skilled employees. Their assets were, or their talents were still needed, but companies didn't want to bring them on as employees because that created too much overhead and therefore too much risk. But they still needed their skill set. So I'd say to all these employees, go to your boss and say, I'll work for X amount of dollars per hour for 20 hours a week and give your money, give your fee, and they'll pay a higher fee per hour when you break it down because they're not paying your payroll tax, they're not paying your insurance. So it actually will come out a win-win for both parties. And then you can go to other people and give your services to them too. And so many of those people never went back to employee life because they made more money as consultants, had more time and financial freedom, and it was a win-win for everybody. So I think we'll see that for sure. My advice, though, is two-pronged. There's the daily living advice that I give to everyone I work with. I've been doing, a ton of mindset trainings for companies to keep their employees and vendors and customers in a good mental state. You are in control of your view of the world at all moments. We are in control. We lose control when we watch the news. So if you're feeling like you're losing control, please stop watching the news because that is one of the worst things that you could be doing right now, or getting into the Facebook and social media wars about you're right and they're wrong and vice versa, because that to me has been absolutely atrocious and sickening to watch. I can't look at it because it literally, like, in teaching emotional intelligence, has been the opposite of emotional intelligence. But be educated, right? Like, be educated. Or if being educated on what's happening right now is giving you anxiety, stop. And the day-to-day looks like this. Wake up, do not look at your social media or the media. Look at something positive. Read a positive book. Watch a positive video. Be active. Create opportunities to have meetings like this where you're seeing someone face-to-face, so you're forced to get up, forced to get dressed, and forced to put your makeup on, or if you're a guy, forced to get dressed and gussy up however it is that you need to, but that you're together. When I'm not traveling, for the majority of the time, I'm working from home, and it's a routine for me. The second I get up, I get dressed as if I'm going somewhere, even if I'm not going somewhere, because when you put on that outfit versus wearing sweats and you're like feeling too comfortable, you're not as productive when you're feeling too comfortable. So getting dressed is a psychological twist that helps you perform at a greater level. Another big thing is when you're sitting for long periods of time like this, doing, meeting after meeting after meeting, I always schedule in between my meetings exercise bursts. So I'll do.
That's what I'm doing.
It's so important. Those exercise bursts are, when you're sitting so long like this, are more important, especially at home, because it's easy to be like, oh, my couch looks so comfortable. It gives your adrenaline boost. It gives you more oxygen. So it might look like this. You get done one of these, and then you have like a 10-minute break. You run up and down the stairs 10 times, do a bunch of push-ups and sit-ups, a couple walking lunges, and then you come back. And then the next break, you do it again. And by the end of the day, you have a complete and total workout. And the biggest thing, and I know I've been seeing everyone's posts and memes, like this has been an opportunity for everyone to indulge in their baking and all those other things. But the worst thing you can do if you're not feeling good is eat poorly. It is sabotage for your psychological state. It is not just about calories. It is about the chemical reaction that's happening to your body, especially with sugar. Sugar is a depressant. So if you're feeling depressed, and eating sugar is going to make you feel more depressed.
It's super, super addictive, right?
So addictive, and psychologically, and from a biochemistry standpoint, the second, it's not how much you're even eating. It's the second sugar hits your tongue, there's a chemical reaction that begins. And the chemical reaction makes your insulin spike, and then literally creates what I call a brain fog over your brain. And then you come down. And that's literally kind of how, I work through, so people can visually see, like, spike up, numb the brain, come down, crash. And then you seek more to make that chemical cycle continue. And so it is incredibly depressive for people to eat sugar. And I know a lot of people are eating when they're bored right now. And, I really strongly encourage everyone to stay into an healthy eating space in order to keep your energy up, your productivity up, and feeling good. And what I do for myself is, if there's something that's going to be in my house that I would want to indulge in, I just don't have it in my house because I don't even want to have to deal with the temptation. So that's another strategy that everyone could use. And staying hydrated is really important. And supplement. If you're afraid of this COVID and you want to be in your best line of defense for yourself, there's plenty of studies that say C and D and zinc and selenium are 4 of the top supplements that you should be taking right now in order to make sure that your immune system has its greatest defense line in place.
Yeah, that's all very, very good advice. I love the exercising in between and the off the news. I've been saying, listen, I don't turn on the news. I might go downstairs. My husband might have CNN or something, I don't know, Bloomberg or something on for a minute. Even the TV at night, there's nothing on. There's not even like all the shows that are usually on that I watch are not even on right now. And so I haven't even been putting on the TV at night. I've been listening to music, talking to friends on the phone, finishing up work from the day, because I don't know, Jen, but if you have been doing this, but we've been working like 11, 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
To manage through. Mm-hmm. It's taking much more energy. And I don't know if it's because of Zoom and you're Zooming all day, or what exactly it is, or it's the changing and adaptation of the way that we have to do business, especially in real estate. Since we're not essential, we have to virtually Zoom through their house, virtually help work with them to stage the property, all these things where we didn't have to do. So maybe it's a change in behavior and action that's causing more and tiredness. I'm guessing.
Whenever you change a behavior, you change the wiring of your brain, right? So these action steps that you're doing aren't traditional action steps. So it's like when people start working out and they're feeling this resistance or exhaustion because you're in the action of exercising or in the action of doing something new, you're truly making new neural pathways in your brain grow. So it's really can be taxing on someone's brain or make them feel exhausted. Another thing too is, your job is a lot harder to do virtually because of all those reasons that you just said. And so you're having to get more creative, you're having to get more strategic, and that also takes another brain capacity. But if you're doing, if you're winding up doing this, which God forbid, I hope would never happen, but 6 months from now, it's not going to be as taxing because your brain is already going to have it all worked out. It's like learning to unride a bike and learning to ride a new different bike. There's a video everyone can Google called Learning to Unride a Bike. And ride a new bike. You can see what happens to your brain and how incredibly hard it is for people to unlearn something and then have to learn something new. That's why there's so much resistance to learning something new. However, I will say this, growth equals happiness. So, yeah.
That was one of the favorite things that I read from your book, The More Method.
Thank you.
I wrote this down. Growth is what drives happiness.
It is. And so when we sometimes growth could come from reading a book or watching a video, and that's more passive, right? And that makes us feel, energized and yeah, I just learned something new. But then learning a new skill and doing something differently is we have a little bit more resistance because it's forcing our brains to work differently. But once we accomplish it, we're like, yeah, man, I want to high five myself. Yeah, I'm proud of myself for my growth. So if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling overwhelmed, this has been a huge opportunity for growth for people to read the books you haven't read, to do the projects you haven't done, to really get caught up in life. I call it my back burner projects. I'm doing all my back burner projects right now. I'm reading the books that I've had in a pile for the last 2 years.
Anyone that you really like right now?
Besides More About That.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
Any other ones that you're reading that you really like?
Yeah, my friend Kendra Hall's book is really amazing. It's called Stories That Stick. It's fun. It's really gets into the depths of storytelling. And storytelling isn't just for speakers. Storytelling is for everybody.
Everybody.
I mean, anyone that's in business that needs to meet and network and connect with people will benefit from this book. I mean, Maria, I'd have everyone on your team read the book because it just makes you a better networker and connector. And instead of being a transactional person, thinking and speaking transactionally, it teaches you how to really tell stories and connect with people and get a depth and emotional connection with people.
So speaking of books, your book, why did you decide to write it? How did that come about? And why did you pick The More Method?
So my first book was called What If and Why Not? And that was the psychology of success. It was meant more for entrepreneurs, teaching people how to flip the negative thought into a positive thought. So what if I fail to, well, what if you succeed? What does that look like? How could your life change if you succeed? Why are you thinking about what's wrong instead of what's right? So the whole book, What If and Why Not, is about teaching people how to flip their psychological thoughts into a positive, productive way and teaching people how to start a business. The More Method, my publisher kept saying, Jen, I want your next book. Not my first publisher, another publisher, my current publisher kept saying, I want your next book. She's heard me speak a lot. She's been part of my teachings a lot. And she said, I want your next book. And so The More Method actually wasn't the next book. It became it, but the next book was called The Operator's Manual for Life. And it was almost complete, and it was really deep emotional intelligence, really teaching people how to challenge their belief systems and peel back the onion that they are and rebuild who they are in a really strong, intentional way. And one night I was going to bed and I'm thinking about the book and I'm thinking about all these people that are now popping up as emotional intelligence experts that I knew really weren't. And I recognized, okay, the space is getting crowded right now. How do I keep staying more relevant and ahead of the game? And so there's a process, psychological process that we all can do to unlock the genius in our subconscious minds. And if you want to have clarity in something, the smartest thing you can do, aside of meditation, is ask yourself questions about that thing before bed. Because if you ask yourself questions about those things before bed, the answer is usually in your subconscious mind. You just can't access your subconscious mind when you're consciously awake. So this night before I went to bed, I said to myself, what is it that makes me different? What am I offering to the world that separates me from all these other people? And I woke up at 3 a.m., which I typically do in that 3 to 5 space. I'm sure you do too.
Well, we should just call each other.
Yeah, with complete clarity. I am wide awake from 3 to 5 on almost a daily basis.
Oh my God. Me
Yeah.
too. And I haven't figured out why yet, but
It's good. It's when your subconscious mind can actually download. There's a whole spiritual philosophy around it as well, but I won't go into that today. But your subconscious mind can download, and the clarity I need from my day that I couldn't get is pouring out of me from 3 to 5. So I learned to stop resisting it and just start texting myself a ton of notes as it's happening. And that particular morning, I realized that it came to me. You teach people how to get more of everything they want in life. And that's a hard thing to say, right? Because each person in the psychology, human potential field kind of has like, I teach you how to improve in relationships or in health or in business. So for me, I was like, I teach people how to improve in all of these things. How do I say this in a way that's unique and understood? And so the more method came to me very quickly. You teach people how to get more of everything they desire in life. And that's universal, but it's also personalized. And then the acronym came to me immediately. M is mindfulness, O is optimization of body and brain, R is responsive versus reactive, and E is excelling in all aspects of life. And I called my publisher the next day and I was like, you're going to hate me, but I feel really strongly about this. I need to write this book, The More Method, first, which will lay the foundation for the operator's manual for life. And it's going to help the people that have never been exposed to personal development or emotional intelligence or the type of vocabulary that's in an operator's manual. It'll help lead them down that path. And it's universal for anyone at any stage at life. And so she trusted me, thankfully. And so I accelerated in writing this book. And this book is a culmination of my 20 plus years of teaching human potential, bringing together multiple disciplines. So the book, The More Method, is really about how to get more of everything you desire in life by being more. My philosophy is once we become more, we receive more, we achieve more. And it's kind of like the Gandhi saying of be the change, right? When we change, everything else change. I'm sorry, what's that?
Be the change that you desire, right?
Yeah. And so when we become more, everything else that we desire becomes more. More people don't get more of what they desire, though, because they lack clarity as to what they desire. They don't believe they're capable and worthy of it, or they diminish what they're capable of because of the opinions of others, which to me is probably one of the biggest crimes against humanity on a regular basis. So the More Method became very clear to me that if I could teach people how to optimize who they are at any stage of life, that this would be one of the biggest contributions I could make from taking this 20 years of teaching human potential. Because the complication was always like, how do I take psychology, physiology, nutrition, quantum physics, metaphysics, neuroscience, and Buddhism, and pull it all together in a methodology that's simple to understand and simple to take action from. And that was my quest. And this was the result of it.
I thought that I 100% thought that you accomplished that.
Thank you.
The book is an easy to read book. It is very straightforward. It is very real and spoken from the heart. And I appreciate that a lot about it, Jen. I think that it's people could take it, pick it up and read it in a day's time. And literally, like, I wrote down some things. Think of your body as a magic wand attracting whatever you are affirming.
Yeah.
How about that?
My kids taught me that. I mean, truly taught me. We were in a car one day. My kids were 7 or 8. I've been teaching them law of attraction and quantum physics from day one. Those of you who hear law of attraction and roll your eyes, please look up quantum physics. Do Google the observer theory, and you will quickly get a 101 lesson in quantum physics to start to understand that it's actually a law just like gravity.
Mm-hmm.
And I taught them very early in their lives, never think about what you don't want. Think about what you do want. If you focus on what you do want, you will attract that more into your life. And if you think about what you don't want, you'll also, unfortunately, attract that more into your life. So kids are really wise. We actually take away much of their wisdom in our fear-mongering belief system programmings that we do. And we're all born with a very high emotional intelligence. It's through the projections of beliefs and prejudice that are projected on children that strip everyone, because we're now adults.
Don't dream too big. You might not make it.
Yeah, right.
Things
exactly
not that are silly.
I don't want you to become disappointed, so don't dream too big. So anyway, my daughters, we had just gotten back from Disney, and I was in the car. So my daughters are my accountability partners because
I love that.
They know what I teach. So they call me out if I'm not walking the walk. And we were driving on 95, and there's traffic coming the opposite direction, and I had to drive back that way. And I was like, oh no. And they said, what's wrong? And I said, look at all that traffic on the other side. I'm going to get stuck in it. And then we late coming back. And Madison goes, Mom, I thought you're not supposed to talk about what you don't want. And I said, nah, you're right. So she started thinking about it as we were talking about it. And I think because we just got back from Disney, and all the princesses and the magic wands, and she looks at me and she goes, so basically, Mom, our bodies are like one big magic wand, right? And I was like, oh my God, yes, yes. If you understand the fullest essence of quantum physics, yes, our bodies are one big magic wand. And the frequency that we're creating is creating the reality to that. So how are you using your magic wand for good or bad? For yourself or for the world too. We're affecting the world as well. And so that to me was like one of the most magical moments that my girls shared with me of my own teachings, just in a more practical way.
Isn't that crazy how they mirror and match what you do, right?
Yeah.
You learn from them as much as they learn from you.
Gosh, yeah. I've learned a lot from them.
I know that you're a big proponent of Louise Hay.
Mm-hmm.
She was quite a remarkable woman, and all the I listened to, Abraham Hicks and all that, and I think you're keeping your frequency level at a high level. It's why sometimes when you talk with people, you don't connect because the vibration is off. You're not. It's impossible even if you say the right words.
Yeah.
A lot of people probably don't know what we're talking about. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure.
I know you have a lot of belief in it.
So we all are energy in motion. Again, this goes back to biology and quantum physics. There's a book called Power versus Force that would be really helpful for anyone who wants to understand this better. But our energy is a frequency. So we can be really low energy And when most people are in low energy, you'll know this as you become more informed about this. They're usually sick often. They usually have a lot of dis-ease in their body, which contributes to sickness. They usually have a lot of bad luck. They usually have a lot of problems that just continue to cycle in their lives. High frequency people are usually relatively healthy. They usually have good luck. They spend time with other high frequency people, and they constantly attract high frequency opportunities. So I always say my frequency is my priority. And if you're affecting my frequency, you need to leave my space. Now, as a teacher, I have been able to find a balance in that because I'm usually helping people in a low frequency to get them to high frequency. And so each emotion, just to give people a little bit more, each emotion has a hertz to it, just like music has a hertz to it. Each emotion has a hertz, and the hertz is an energy frequency. So the worst energy frequencies are anger, fear, which is an enormous state of the frequency that most people are putting out right now, which is not good for our world as a whole. Mm-hmm. And then for the top frequencies, there's obviously an entire emotional scale in there, but the top frequencies is gratitude, appreciation, love. And this was something really fascinating to me because I was like, wait, for a long time, I kind of saw gratitude and appreciation as the same thing because everybody in my world likes to do gratitude journals or incredibly grateful people because I choose to surround myself in my free time and my personal time with grateful people. And I question everything. I constantly am philosophizing things. Why would gratitude be lower energy frequency than appreciation? And as I thought about it and researched it, gratitude is a passive act where appreciation is the action. So the A in appreciation is the action. It's expressing the gratitude. So it's a higher frequency. And so it made me become more appreciative than necessarily just grateful. And then I thought to myself, well, how do you get to the highest frequency and stay in that frequency as much as possible in the frequency of love? Since that's the highest frequency, that's where our body's going to thrive the most. That's where we're going to attract the greatest people and the greatest opportunities. And so I realized when we emotionally, so remember I teach emotional intelligence, when we emotionally connect to our appreciation, it can become love. So I actually teach in one of my classes this I love exercise, where instead of just saying, I'm grateful for my children, which is what most people would say, I'm grateful for my children. I would say, I love my children. I love how they belly laugh in their bedrooms when they're goofing off. I love when they help each other when one's in need and they don't even have to ask. I love where one knows the other one's late, they make lunch for them. So you see, when I'm saying I love like that, it's actually emotionally connecting, not just I'm grateful for my children, or I love, and here's the reasons why. And if we could all stay in that space of what I now call expressive gratitude and appreciation, which actually brings you to the state of love, we'll all thrive to a higher level. But it's really about emotionally connecting to your thought process that actually creates greater energy in emotion.
All right. So there's two things, right? There's only two things. It's love and fear. Yeah. So we do everything out of one of those things. Mm-hmm. Most of it, a lot of times, unfortunately, it's from fear.
Yes. Sorry, I'm plugging my computer.
One of the things that in your book, which I thought was interesting, and it seems very logical, but I don't know if it is to a lot of people. Hurt people.
Yeah. Yeah. Happy people don't hurt people. And that's the truth of it. So when we understand that hurt people, we can be a lot more compassionate and empathetic, which is emotional intelligence, to people, and recognize so many people take so many things personally. that have nothing to do with them at all. So many people are offended by so many things that have nothing to do with them. One of the things that could trigger me is this overabundance of everyone being offended by everything. Because if you're overly offended by everything, that means that you think the world is revolving around you, which means you are coming from a high place of ego. Usually nothing has to do with any of us but what we're going through ourselves. So every one of us has the right ability and control to give meaning to everything that's happening to us. So as in the book, one of the first lessons in the emotional intelligence space is nothing has meaning until you give it meaning. So we are the meaning makers of our lives. So I can choose to walk around the world being offended, being hurt, being attacked by people, because that's the meaning that I'm giving it. So I'm making myself a victim. Or you can walk around the world and realize hurt people, happy people don't. And instead of being offended, realize that that person's probably in pain for one reason or another, has nothing to do with you. So you either can be not bothered by it or help that person if that relationship is worthwhile to you. But I'll give you an example. And I don't think I use this example in the book, but I use this example often. I was speaking at an event, and this woman, Amy, was booking me. And I said to her, listen, I cannot fly out the night before. I need to fly out that morning because I have an event the night before. But if I fly out at the first flight out at 6:30 or whatever, I'll make it with plenty of time. I get my itinerary. I'm booked for the night before. I call her and I say, hey, Amy, there must have been a miscommunication. I just got my itinerary and I'm booked for the night before. And I clearly said I couldn't do that. She starts screaming at me. You didn't communicate that. You didn't say that. This is your fault. You should have communicated. I mean, literally screaming at me. So, of course, all of us want to react at that moment. We're being attacked. But in my mind, I realize hurt people hurt people. So I take a deep breath, very important tool. And I say, hey, Amy, I'm sorry you're having such a bad day. I know this has nothing to do with me. So why don't we hang up now and we can reconvene on a phone call later when you're feeling better. And we hang up. Now, if I attacked her back, there's nothing good that can come of that, right? Nothing.
Nothing.
She's in a state of wanting to be right. She's in a state of fear, as you said. Whatever that state of fear or hurt or anger came from has nothing to do with me. She calls me back later that day, crying. She said, Jen, I am so sorry. My husband was just diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And we have 3 young children. And I feel like the weight of the world is on my shoulders right now. And I said, Amy, I am so sorry to hear this. I know that that didn't have to do with me. I knew something else was happening. But you imagine if I mirrored her behavior, I would have been probably losing a relationship, losing a job, like a speaking gig. And then also my reputation would have been ruined through other people in her social network. So, hurt people, if every child could learn hurt people, happy people don't, all of the trauma that has created through middle school and high school for children could be, I wouldn't say completely eradicated, but at least diminished to a great extent. And so many adults that I work with, when I'm unwinding the childhood trauma, here's the deal. We all have trauma. It's relative. What's that?
Everybody.
Everyone has.
All different levels.
Yep.
In all different ways, but yes.
It's all relative. It's all relative to the story that was given to it at that stage in time in your life. And trauma is what holds us all back from being our best version selves. And if we could heal the trauma, we then optimize who we are. And so one of the biggest things I do in all my trainings is help people to get back to those places of trauma, change the story, because once you change the story, then you begin to heal. Right. And so if everybody could learn at a young stage and age of life to change the story as it's happening, then we all as a society could be in a way better place. Like there's nothing, Guy mentioned earlier about social media. I typically love social media. I love engaging with people. I like seeing what people are up to. Nothing has irritated me more, other than the news, than social media recently. because what I'm watching is this like really emotionally unintelligent behavior, but from people I respected or I thought were different. And as a whole, not seeking to understand people's perspectives. So everybody's like out there fighting to be right, to prove a point, versus like, well, that's interesting. Could you help me understand how you came to that conclusion? Or could you help me understand your perspective? Because the truth is, none of our opinions are the truth. None of our perspectives are the truth. Even in science, and I say this to people all the time and it trips them up, and I challenge everyone to think about this. Science is not an exact science. There's nothing exact about it, and I'll tell everybody exactly why. Because in science, you're collecting data. But then the next step, this next big step after collecting the data and investigation happens, there's this step called deduction. And deduction all has biases. Deduction is not a perfect science, but it's part of a science process. And in the deduction, if I have a bias or I have a desired outcome that I would like to see happen, I can take all the data and deduct it to give it the meaning that I want it to have and say that's science. But the truth is, another scientist look at the same exact thing, have a totally different bias, have a totally different desire for the outcome, and say that their science is right. The same exact thing happens with religion. Any religious book, but I'll just say the Bible for now. I could read the Bible, you could read, but we all could read the Bible. And because of our life experiences and because of our biases and because of our desires, biases past programming, desires are future programming, we will have different interpretations. And so everyone has to remember when they're hearing all these things and seeing all these things that nothing that you're seeing is really truth. Everything has a bias. So what bias is closest to the truth is really the questions that we should be asking ourselves and following our intuition. Most people have completely lost touch with their soulful intact, their soulful space. Like you talked about Abraham Hicks earlier, Louise Hay. People that follow that, read that, to me instantly say, you are connected to your soul, which is way more wise than your current state of your brain. Wisdom is way more powerful than knowledge. And when you're not connected to this and you're just listening to everything that's bombarding you and you're believing agendas without researching, fact checking, doing your own deductions, then you are literally not even touching into your own power. You're literally at the power of others, which to me is complete insanity to give up our own personal power.
Well, I think that people don't even know what to believe in.
Right, because
they've lost the ability to think, right?
Yeah.
Well, and they're confused.
Mm-hmm.
They're confused because they're listening to 27 different people give 27 different opinions based on bias, based on what their story is. And I think it's important, to mention, look, we got to sit back right now and kind of take a pause.
Yeah. Well, you cannot think logically from a place of fear. When you're in a state of fear, you are in a state of constriction. And constriction does not allow for your brain to actually connect the synapses that need to be connected to actually create logical content or insight to something. We are at what I believe is one of the greatest, and I don't say great in a good way, one of the most dynamic forms of psychological warfare that have ever existed in history. We are at the hands of psychological warfare right now. And it is playing out, and knowing psychology the way I do, it is playing out at its utmost of evil in this psychological warfare. And it saddens me because psychology can really be used for a good resource and helping people to free themselves. But this is the opposite. Psychological warfare actually shackles people into a state of fear to take control and abuse. Psychological warfare has been around forever. And to not acknowledge that it exists is insane. But, one thing I want to say that I feel really strongly about, and this is my opinion based on human behavior, teaching human behavior, I teach people how to have multiple perspectives. I teach people how to uncover the beliefs that hold them back. I teach people how to change the biases that were programmed in them that aren't really in alignment with their current state of who they are. Maybe programmed by parents, community, whatever. If we are fighting right now the way people are fighting for everyone to be healthy and safe, we are not doing the right things. When there are millions and millions of people out, tens of millions of people out of work right now, that's just unemployed. Tens of millions, maybe even more, of business owners that are out of business right now that maybe will never open their door. There are tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions, that are children that are in abusive homes right now that cannot escape their abuser, as well as women that are in abusive homes that cannot escape their abuser. Having been a child of a father who is an alcoholic, when you are in a home with an abuser, it is one of the most frightening. I would have taken COVID all day long than having to be in a house trapped with an abuser. There are people that are not going to be able to feed their families. There is a lot of domino effect that is happening from this. And if you care about human life, you care about all human life. And so we need to get together and stop being so divided to create better solutions. It's not one thing or the other. There's better solutions to this. But the divide of the human race is or divide of the American country is exactly what both agendas want. The divide actually helps create control. And so if everybody could get together more universally, I'm sorry.
It does. That's the outcome, right, that they want.
Yeah, right. So basically, if you follow history, we are in a revolutionary war, like creating a revolutionary war right now. If you watch people play out their wars on social media, you see it happening. There is a massive divide right now. And the problem is that many people are just listening to what the narrative is. And instead of saying, wow, you're right. We're worried about people getting COVID. I'm in my home getting paid. I'm not getting paid unless I'm drumming up business, but some people are getting paid still by their company. I want to stay home to feel safe, but I'm not thinking about the other people that can't feed their families right now. I'm not thinking about the tens of thousands of casino workers in Atlantic City that really were hard workers, but were living paycheck to paycheck and week to week that can't pay for their rent right now, could be kicked out of their homes, and are getting food help from people. I mean, for someone who was a hard worker who never had to get handouts, now has to take handouts. Why aren't we thinking about all those people? Why aren't we being compassionate for those people? For me, I wrote a post the other night about the hundreds of thousands, and the UN said this, and the UN is attached to the WHO, so everybody better get their story straight. Who is part of the UN? UN says that from this, hundreds of millions of children will die of starvation. Or it's 100,000. Hold on, let me make sure I'm saying this accurately. Of starvation from this. And have all of these malnourished issues. We're not even talking about abusive households in those numbers. So, could kill hundreds of thousands of children. UN warns economic downturn can kill hundreds of thousands of children. So we don't care about them. We shouldn't. So why aren't we creating better solutions? Just like your show, Be the Solution. There's got to be better solutions. But the narrative that's happening right now is so much fear. So everyone's illogically like, I'm right. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. No one's actually right. There just needs to be better solutions.
Yeah, I mean, people are afraid of people.
Yeah, well, one of the other things that has definitely triggered me during this time is freedom of speech. It seems that a lot of people, when I posted about those children the other night, so many people's response was, Jen, I've been saying stuff like this and been attacked. I have been posting things about this and been attacked, or I am just too afraid to post anything like this. How have we become in a society where everybody's too afraid to speak out because everyone's bullying people that don't share the same story? So that means that we are coming from a very high place of fear and a very high place of following what everybody else is saying instead of what's wrong with questioning things. Like, I want to question things. I want to say, what if that coronavirus was created in a lab in Wuhan? Why wouldn't anyone want to know that? Like, why would that bother somebody? You should want to know who created that virus in Wuhan.
100%.
Right? Like,
100%.
Why would you pretend that it didn't exist? And if you follow the money, that's where everything goes to. Follow the money on that Wuhan lab and the Harvard scientists, you'll get to where you need to go. Or who's pushing agendas for vaccinations and how much money is tied into that whole thing. Like, uncover it. It's facts. Follow the money. Put it together, right? So why wouldn't you want to know that you're being manipulated right now?
Yeah, I've read that the first 14 cases in the US, every single one of those people was in Wuhan.
Interesting. I didn't realize that.
The first one was in Washington State, then it was Arizona, then I think it was Colorado, then like Maine or Rhode Island or something. Every single one of those 14 people were in Wuhan.
Yeah.
And it was brought here. I mean, and, they knew about it long before they really, I don't think they believed it could come here. I mean, how many other things have we had? SARS, swine flu, I can't even, H1N1, whatever. I don't even know what they all are because I really never pay attention to it.
Yeah, I know.
I just kind of go and do my thing, and
there's no real need to pay attention to it unless there is a bigger reason behind it, right? So, and I don't know, just going back to logic and a person who questions everything, why the hell are we padding numbers of like people died that didn't die of corona? Like, why are we padding them? Why was that the front cover? 3,500 new people were given the coronavirus death on their death certificate, and no one is saying, why are we doing that? Or
because the hospitals get
a mandated letter to say to do that, right?
Well, they get income too. They get the per patient. It's $33,000.
Right. But see, what's sad, like we're having this conversation right now. Why is it wrong to have this conversation? Like, why do people attack people for questioning like really logical things? Like, why the heck would a man who died of a car accident have on his death certificate coronavirus? That happened to one of my friend's fathers. Why would that happen? There's a bigger reason that all this is happening, right? So why is an American or any country that you're from, why wouldn't you want to be informed? I just don't understand. So I think that I hope from this, people challenge themselves to become more informed, more free thinkers, more critical thinkers, and seek to understand, not to be right. Ask questions. Like my first book, what if? Like, what if I'm not?
Yeah, I think, I agree with you, Jen. I mean, asking questions in life and then actually listening.
Yeah. Yeah.
And listening to people and saying, a lot of people need help right now. And what can we do to help them? Right. So I say to people, I'm here. If there's anything you need, don't be embarrassed.
Yeah.
Reach out. I made a post the other day and I really got some slack for it about saying that I didn't need a stimulus check. One, I'm not getting one. Just, I'm not getting one. But it was like, I want to see my friends' businesses survive. I want to see, I have a lot of friends that are entrepreneurs. I know a lot of business owners, and I want to see them survive this. I want to see their families survive. And to sit there and think, like, even for us in real estate, like I could sit here and complain. We can't work. We can't show houses. We can't go to list in somebody's house to list a property. But what's the point?
Yeah.
But that's how we came up. Be the solution. Find ways to make it happen.
Yeah.
Regardless of circumstance, because this can happen again.
Yeah.
And so we have to reinvent. We have to be creative. We have to say, how can I make a difference?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You've been
Yeah.
already making a difference with people. So like now it's a whole nother level. It's even like a deeper level because it psychologically has affected people.
So here's the thing that I've always said, and this is why I became an entrepreneur. I've never wanted a thing from anybody. I've been, since I was 20 some years of age, well, even before that, but making my own way. I haven't relied on somebody to give me a handout of anything. Nor do I even now today. I mean, I won't even expect to get a check in my mailbox because I mean, that's not even what my thought process is like yours. Like, I don't want that check. I just want people. So I always say, I grew up in politics. So I always say, I don't involve myself in politics because I know that it's all illusions and smoke and mirrors. And I want no parts of it. As long as the government stays out of my way so that I can do what I need to do, I don't care. But now the problem is for me, the government does create this barrier of anyone to have a business. And kind of like if you've never been in an abused home, you might not actually understand what those children are going through right now. Same as if you've never owned a business and never relied on yourself for making your own revenue, and all those millions of people that are unable to work right now, like yourself, and you're getting a paycheck, how can you judge the person that's saying, I need to work right now to provide for my family, or we won't have a roof over our heads? Because what a lot of people don't realize is the many small business owners, especially the ones that have brick and mortar, pay their employees before they pay themselves. Many don't ever have money to pay themselves consistently. Many are going week to week. Many have their investment into the product in their stores. And so they can't sustain for 2 months of not opening their doors. And many of them can't put their businesses online. So what are they doing right now? They're going to lose everything. No one's compassionate about that. And then the news narrative that's bothered me is, oh, it's all about money. No, it's actually about surviving and feeding your family. It's about not becoming homeless for a hard worker that contributed to society. That's really what it comes down to. And I don't think people are thinking about this domino effect around this, but I want everyone to also know that as you and I are having this conversation, we are two people that have immunocompromised. Like, we could be in the high risk compartment, right? And my daughter, the same, who's had Lyme disease and is still recovering. So I'm fully aware that I would be considered in the high risk, but I don't think that anyone who's already had it, who has antibodies to it, or people that have a fully robust immune system should be risking everything that they work so hard for, or risking feeding their family for what I choose to do on my daily life.
Yeah. Well, I've been praying for the for the world. And I've been appreciative of all the good things that we have, right? And that we have that will build and that will come from this. And I truly believe in my heart that we will be better after this is over,
Yeah.
because we've adapted and we've taken action and we've not reacted, but we've been, we responded in a very, positive and a way of caring and responsible way, quite frankly.
Seek
So
to understand and build a solution, right? It's not like I'm right, you're right, but if we're compassionate for the lives of people in one aspect of life, we've got to be compassionate for the lives of people in all aspects of life, and that's really what it comes down to. Yep, can't just be
we all matter.
Right. I'm compassionate for one narrative and I'm not compassionate for all of them. And that way is being a hypocrite, right?
For sure. So how do people get in touch with you if they want to get into one of your programs or to get your book? Where can they get it? Is it on Amazon or?
It will be on Amazon as of May 5th. But right now they could just Google Jen Groover More Method and it'll take you right to my publisher's site, which has a bookstore there. And then I'm very active on social media. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. So if you want to inbox me to learn more about some of the trainings that I do or the one-on-one consulting that I do, please reach out to me. I love working with people.
Jen, I thank you so much for sharing the time with me today.
Absolutely.
You're an amazing speaker, amazing person, and a terrific mom. And I know you got a lot going on. So I am very grateful and appreciative of your time. And I really enjoyed this, and I loved your book. So
Likewise.
I hope others take the time to order it and get it as soon as it's available on May 5th. And it's an easy read, and I got a lot. I wrote like 6 good nuggets from it that I'm going to talk about on social media.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been so much fun. I feel like I just drank coffee, sharing energy.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Maria.
I can't wait to see you soon.
Likewise.
All right.
Bye.